Let me go live again. Now I've lost my audience. Hi everyone. So we're back up again. Please let me know if you can see me and you can hear me this time. Can anyone hear me? Can you see me? Oh no. Can anyone hear me? If you can see me, you can hear me, please put a comment in the chat. Okay, we're back up again. Please, if you can see me, you can hear me, let me know in the comment section. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Please drop in the comment section. Okay, I can see a thumbs up. So that means we're good. So I'll just copy the link and send across to my communities and so that we can get things going. We've lost some minutes already. Awesome. I see people joining now. Please let me know that you can see me, you can hear me, and then I can get things started. Technology played a smart on us again today, and I promise this is going to be the last time it will happen. So let me see your comments in the chat, in the comment section, if you can see me and you can hear me. If you can see me and you can hear me, let me see your comments in the comment section now. Is anyone here with me? Okay, yes, I can see. Alrighty, we'll get things started now. So thank you so much for joining us, and apologies for the technology issue that we had earlier. So I'll just get started. We lost 10 minutes already. I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. My name is Vera Patrick Azodo, and I am the founder of the Readers Corner. Today's live stream is a special one. It is very important to us because, as a Nigerian in diaspora, I've come to understand truly the importance of preserving our culture, our heritage, and our history. So, this episode, this live stream session is particularly important to me. I'm super excited about it because staying very far from home has taken a lot from me, right? And many of us in diaspora, we might not tell you this truth, but we actually do miss home. We miss the rich culture, the diversity, the vibrance of everyone back home. And as part of preserving legacy, as part of protecting our heritage, that is why we take this live stream today very seriously. A friend of mine said when she saw this flyer, she was like, Vera, why are you moving too fast? Independence Day is still a couple of days away. And I said, there is no better time than to have this stream than today and right now. Why? Because the story of Nigeria, if you're a history student and you follow the story of Nigeria, there are a lot of lessons to be learned from how our ancestors, our forefathers, how they fought their way to freedom. It speaks a lot to us as individuals. It speaks a lot about us as a nation. So that is why we're here today to talk about books that built our nation, celebrating Nigeria's independence through stories. Right? That's the topic of today's conversation. And today we're celebrating Nigeria at 65 through the books and stories that helped shape our nation. And we're also going to be exploring how families can embrace these stories as part of their own traditions. Right. Please, if you're here with me, I feel like I'm talking to myself. I can see people here. Please put a comment on the chat session. Let me know how your week has been, how your weekend has been, how Sunday is going, and how you feel about Nigeria's Independence Day if you are Nigerian. And if you're not Nigerian, you can also tell us how you feel about learning about the opportunity to learn about Nigeria's history today. So give me a comment in the comment section. I can't see comments just yet. Let me know that you're here with me and you're following. Now, I'm going to begin by giving a brief summary about Nigeria's Independence Day. All right. Nigeria gained independence from the British colonial masters on October 1st, 1960. And this date, it's a remarkable day in Nigerian history because it marks the nation's journey to self-governance, the celebration of its diverse cultures, and the resilience of Nigerian people. You see, if you look at the history, right, you'd see that the colonial masters they were not great masters to Nigerians. They were not good. Like they were, I don't want to say they weren't good, but it was akin to slavery back in those days. But here is a group of men, a group of bold, smart, resilient men who took it upon themselves and said, no, we're going to put an end to this, this sort of slavery, modernized slavery. We're going to, speak up. When I was telling my children this story last week, I told them that this is the importance of speaking up. When things don't go right, don't go well in your space, you need to stand up for what is right. Because every other person is doing it doesn't make it right. And this is what these men of valor did for Nigeria. Without them taking the bold step to speak up and stand up for Nigeria, you and I wouldn't be here today. And that's the truth. We won't be here today. We could have still been, under intense slavery, going through all of the hardship and all of the unfair treatment that our forefathers went through, right? Independence Day is celebrated with national events, parades, cultural displays, and reflections of Nigerians' history and achievements. It is time to honor the stories, struggles, and triumphs that shaped Nigeria. Now, before I move too fast, I would like to talk about why stories matter for Nigeria and the family as a whole. Why stories? Why stories? Admin, can you put a message in the chat? I want to be sure that chat button is working. I can't see any, movement here. Can you try to create some activity in the chat? Are you able to do that? I can only see a thumbs up you did about 6 minutes ago. And if you're here, please go ahead and drop a message in the chat so that I know that I am well connected and I can be heard clearly. Right. The thing is, stories have always been the heartbeat of Nigeria. Long before books even started, before people could write books, you know, folk tales, proverbs, and even oral histories preserved our heritage. And they also taught values, very in-depth values, and inspired imagination. Stories have always been the heartbeat of our nation, right? Nigerians pass down wisdom, values, and history through folk tales, proverbs, and oral traditions. And the thing is, these stories, they are the things that shaped how communities understood the world, taught right from wrong, and preserved our heritage for generations. And when you talk about stories, awesome. Thank you for that confirmation. When we talk about stories, the things, stuff like folk tales, which were entertaining, teaching morals, and reinforcing community values. There's a story that I would never forget listening to as a child, and it's the story of the tortoise and the hare. I don't know who remembers the story of the tortoise and the hare. The story where the reason why the tortoise has a cracked back. That's one of my favorite stories. Um, Recently, I enrolled my children to Igbo mentorship classes because I wanted them to speak Igbo better. And as a result of that mentorship class, they find themselves now doing their downtime. They're just relaxing with Igbo stories. One of those is my 6-year-old, put on the TV, and it was the story of the tortoise and the hare. And he starts put, they were speaking Igbo all through, which I know he can't understand everything clearly, but it was so fascinating the way the story was told. This boy sat there and, he was just soaking it all in, enjoying whatever he was hearing that I don't even know. But at some point I had to pause the video, explain to them, and then I on it back again and allow them to, listen to it. That story, I heard it over 30 years ago and it still resonates with me. What is the moral of that story? It talks about greed, not being greedy. So the thing about stories and folk tales is that they are a very efficient way of communicating values. As soon as my children finished watching that um Igbo story, I had to ask them their lessons, and they were like, "It's not good to be greedy. How can people donated their wings and then they flew you to the heaven to have the party, and you said your name was all of you, and then all the food they brought, you sat down and ate all the food because your name is all of you, and in the end, you want them to fly you back to earth." So back in those days, our forefathers, they leveraged on storytelling to transfer values, and those are the lessons that stick, really. For my children, I know that they won't forget that story ever, just the same way it resonates with me anytime, any day. Another way that our forefathers used stories was with proverbs. Proverbs are rich expressions of wisdom, culture, and lessons, which are short sayings that carry wisdom across generations. The, the interesting thing about proverbs in my language, they say it in Igbo language. I'm not going to speak that here. Um, that if they give you a proverb, if they speak a proverb to you and they interpret it, it means that your mother's bride price is a waste. That's the way the proverb goes. So the idea is, when an elderly person gives you a proverb, the idea is for you to sit back and go and think about it and figure out what it means. The person who gave you the proverb should not explain it to you. It's more like an abomination, right? Yeah. And then we also had oral histories. Families used oral histories to recount historical events, migration stories, achievements of elders, and all those kind of things. You can imagine a grandpa sitting down and telling the children about independence struggles, local heroes, the war, the Biafran War, and all of those things. You know, so this is just to buttress the importance of storytelling. So if you're a parent watching and you've been trivializing telling stories to your family, to your children, and with your children, I'm encouraging you today. This is a charge to you to get back to storytelling. And in this context, we're focusing on Nigeria's independence. Use this opportunity to tell your children stories and stories about how they got here. It's very important, right? So that our culture, our heritage, our legacy can be preserved. Now, I'll tell another story. Another reason why we should take storytelling very important. Growing up, in the compound where I grew up, we had a lot of children. The way we play with neighbors, or those days we used to play with neighbors, and after school we come down, everybody comes out, play suwe, we play soccer, we do different things, right? So there was this particular neighbor of ours. They used to live downstairs, and she had a sister. She's married with children, and she had a sister, a younger sister, who would always come to spend time with her. Fortunately for us, this her sister loved storytelling. It was so good that like almost every evening she would gather all of us. Would be like 30 children would surround her on the mat on the floor, and then she begins to tell us lovely stories. And then we had to give her a name, Auntie Storyteller. While I was preparing for this class, I just remembered her. And Auntie Storyteller, wherever you are, and if you happen to come across this video, I'm sending my love to you because your stories impacted in me in many different ways. It was so good. Till today, I never knew her name. We all called her Auntie Storyteller, because the values, the interest, the focus that comes from storytelling, it's a very effective tool in parenting. Now, let's move right into it. So, let's talk about books that built our nation. And then we look at the foundational stories of Nigeria, the classics. A very prominent book that I would always recommend if you're looking for a starting point. I know many of us, we don't know history about Nigeria. We don't know so much. We just know that October 1st started. But if you want to know the details of what our forefathers went through to get us here, then the top recommendation in my list is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. This book tells the story of Okonkwo, who is a respected leader in the Igbo village of Umofia, navigating the challenges of tradition, personal ambition. The book explores pre-colonial Igbo society, the customs and moral codes, and contrasts them with the disruptive influence of British colonialism and Christian missionaries. Now, what's the significance of this novel? One, it reclaims African identity and voice from colonial narratives that often misrepresented African cultures. Now, our forefathers knew who they were. They knew that serving the British was not who they were, right? And that's the part I like to talk about, self identity. This is a skill or a gift that every parent must give their child. Self identity. Let your children know who they are. Because when they know who they are, they won't fit in everywhere. When your children know who they won't fit in everywhere. They are quick to know when things are off, where they found themselves in the wrong place. But when they don't know who they are, they'll become like goats in the midst of chickens. So self-identity is very important, and that's one big significance of this book. Things Fall Apart. Our forefathers realized that this was not in their slavery was not in their veins. It was not their thing. They were called to be kings, and that's what gave them the stamina to fight for independence. The book also highlights the conflict between tradition and change, and the human cost of cultural disruption. And it offers a lens for families and readers to discuss heritage, resilience, and moral lessons. You see, Okonkwo had different choices to make in that book, right? He had different choices to make in that book, but he chose to fight for freedom, right? So that's Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. That's one of the very important books on Nigerian history, colonialism, pre-colonialism, and post-colonialism. So we have the second one, which is The Man Died. And the author of this book is Wole Soyinka. You know, looking back now, many years back, when we had this all of these books. My parents had the books in the house, and I never paid attention to them. I'm like, what's my business with all of this? Even got to a point where some of the books were introduced as part of our curriculum, right? As part of our curriculum in secondary school, we were made to read those books. At that point, it didn't make any sense to me because I'm like, why are you telling me all of this? I don't care. But right now, especially living in diaspora, I'm beginning to appreciate the Nigerian culture more because really, Nigerians are resilient. We're fighters. We're strong-hearted. Now, the man died. The book is a memoir, right? Recounting Wole Soyinka's imprisonment during the Nigerian Civil War. He was detained without trial because he criticized the corruption in the government, abuse of human rights. Um, you know, so because of that, he was imprisoned without trial. So in this book, Soyinka kind of chronicles the harsh realities of political oppressions, his reflections on injustice, and the psychological and physical toll of incarceration. Now, again, this is a man leveraging on the tool of storytelling to talk about injustice, to talk about things that are not going well. When I remember this book, I remember reading this book back so many years ago. And then the memory that comes to me is Fela. The same way that Fela uses music to criticize bad governance. That same way, that is what these authors have done with storytelling, putting together all the negativities, all the shortcomings of Nigerian governments in back in those days. And what this does is the more people are able to read about these stories, the more we are aware of what needs to be done. The more the government knows that, hey, people are watching, eyes are on you. You can't do this and get away with it, right? So storytelling is a very impactful tool in every area of your life, right? Now, what's the significance of this book, The Man Died? The main focus of this book is literature as resistance. The book is a powerful example of using writing to confront injustice, and preserve truth. It highlights courage, conviction, moral conviction, and the human spirit in the face of political repression. And one thing I took away from reading this book is that it inspires the role of accountability, activism, and speaking out. Back to speaking out, just like I said before. When we see things that are not going well, we need to be able to speak up, right? And if you're here and you think you have that talent of writing, this is the wake up call for you. Everybody can actually write. It only comes with training. Nobody was born a writer. Many people who you see writing because they've subjected to themselves to a certain level of discipline. They've stretched their mind. They've read so much so that their brains are able to, articulate stuff really quickly. So if you're here, if you've not written anything before, I challenge you to think about writing in that area of your specialty, that strength that you have, that your gift. The world is waiting for it, because if these men of valor didn't write this literature, you and I will be here. We'll just be hearing, oh, they said that. They said, but with these books, it kind of teleports us into the realm of that independence season, right? And all that happened during that period. The third book that I also appreciate so much is Cyprian Ekwensi's Jaguar Nana. Jaguar Nana by Cyprian Ekwensi. Just to make it funny, when we were younger, my brother used to call it Cyprian Ekwensu, and in Igbo language, Ekwensu means Satan. So he would say, where is that Cyprian Ekwensu's book, and we all laughed about it. But that's on the lighter notes. Now, this book tells the story of Jagwanana. Jagwanana was a woman, an ambitious woman at that. She lived in the post-colonial Nigerian cities, and the story explores her relationships, her career, and the way she navigated through social expectations. Capturing the challenges and contradictions of urban life, and the significance that the book explores urbanization. So this one focuses on post-colonialism, right? It focuses on sorry, it highlights the experiences of women who are fighting for independence in a changing society. It also provides insight into societal norms, morality, and the choices individuals make in complex urban settings, right? And a key takeaway point for me from this book is, how personal choices can affect life and community, and how cultural change can influence identity and values. Now, these are the classic books, right? These are the classic examples that we have. Now, the next one I'd like to talk about is a set of books that I love so much. These books talk about struggle, resilience, bravery, and bouncing back from adversity. The first one, and this is me introducing one of my favorite writers, Chimamanda Adichie. Yes, the first book is by Chimamanda Adichie, and it talks about how its title is Half of a Yellow Sun. I don't know how many of you who have heard about this book, Half of a Yellow Sun. It is a must-read book. If you're on this stream or you're going to catch a replay, I strongly recommend this book for you. What about the book? The book was set, the set is during the Nigerian Civil War. That's in about, I think, 1967 to 1970, thereabout. And it follows the twisted life of Olana, Odenibo, and Ugu, right? The novel explains how war impacts love, family, and personal ambition. Olana is the cast, a very beautiful and educated woman. Don't ask me how I know she's beautiful. The book described her as being beautiful. She navigated her relationship with Odenibo, while also confronting the horrors of war. Ugu, who was the village boy, their servants, he became a houseboy, and he witnessed both the personal and national turmoil. So through their perspectives, through their lenses, the novel kind of portrays the human cost of conflict, including displacement, hunger, and loss. Why did I select this book? Why is it significant? Because it highlights resilience and survival even in the midst of political turmoil. Now, the news is that whatever Nigeria is going through right now, it's not green. It's not fresh. It has always been there. The only problem is, unfortunately, our government have refused to learn from past mistakes, right? Whatever is happening with Nigeria now, it's not breaking news. It only is just getting worse, right? But they've always been there. How do I know? If you read all these novels, all these stories, you would see that these issues have been prevalent from way back. Bad governance, corruption, selfishness. And the thing is that this problem, it's a problem of the family units. It's not a national problem. It's a failure of the family. And that is why at the Reader's Corner, one thing we take very importantly is parenting, because the outlook of the nation is a reflection of the strength of the family. A child who does not know how to control greed will get into governance and want to sway away all the funds for personal reasons. So it's not a national problem, it's a family decadence problem. And I believe that the solution to Nigeria's challenges is by getting it right in our homes. The next generation of children we're raising are the children, if they're intentionally raised, then the problems of Nigeria will be greatly solved. Right. Half of a Yellow Sun also encourages readers, to reflect on the personal impact of historical and political conflicts. For me, reading the book again, I had to ask my daughter, I was like, how, like we talked about how individuals cope with challenges and adversity, different lenses, different reactions, different results, right? Another interesting read I have on my list that talks about the Nigerian history, resilience, and women's position in the society is The Joys of Motherhood by Buchi Emecheta. This particular book, we were made to read it as a compulsory text in secondary school. The Joys of Motherhood. This woman, she went through a lot. Enu was her name. Enu Ego. Ego. No Ego. She was a woman living in early 20th century colonial Nigeria then. In the book, she equated her self-worth with her ability to bear children. So she was more like a baby making machine, just giving birth, popping them here and there and all of that, right? And that kind of reflects society's expectation that women's primary role is motherhood. But who says that? A woman is more than reproduction. A woman is more than childbearing. A woman is more than just raising children. Women, we have so much in us that society has bottled and summarized in just one word, which is take care of the children. Mother, take care of the children. But this book highlights that even though this is the lens through which society sees women, there is so much more in us. It explores themes of gender, tradition, colonial influence, and pressure, societal pressures. And it also highlights the challenges that women face in balancing personal desires with societal expectations. The next book that I have here, I won't spend so much time on this one, is The Famished Road by Ben Okri. The Famished Road by Ben Okri. For some reason, I don't want to talk too much about this one because it was talking about using magic. It talks about a spirit child. It was just using magical realism to explore complex social and cultural themes. So I'm not a believer of magic, but it featured in my list because it's one of the top literature that highlights the independence and post-colonial story of Nigeria. Now, let us talk about how families can make reading a tradition and celebrate Nigeria's stories at home, which is the heart of today's conversation. How can families make reading a tradition, celebrate Nigeria's story this season? Like you already know, the Reader's Corner is all about promoting the reading culture in families, right? And raising lifelong readers. Now, reading together strengthens family bonds and it helps children develop critical thinking and empathy. Reading for a child goes beyond just reading books. No. When you read for a child, you are equipping a nation. You are raising a nation in that child. Now, let me bring it nearer home. Reading reading for children is a channel to pass on culture. Now, this is Independence Day. What can you do with your children to teach them about Nigeria's history? Now, I was having a conversation with a friend sometime. I was talking about, oh, I got some Igbo books. Like I mentioned earlier, I registered my children for an Igbo mentorship class so that they can get in depth to speaking Igbo, right? Because I made that mistake when they were little, I wasn't speaking a lot of Igbo to them. But now that I know better, and because of the time constraint of sitting down to be teaching them, I handed them over to a professional who teaches them. And because of that, we have lots of Igbo literature, Igbo books in the house. I was telling my friend, and she said, "But what's with this Igbo thing? You just started this." I said, "Well, the more we grow, the more we learn." Uh, Part of my goals for this year is to prioritize cultural intelligence. And I asked her a question. You don't speak Igbo, your language in the house. You hardly cook your food in the house. Your children wear hoodies and sweatpants. I asked her, what do you think your children will teach their children 30, 20, 30 years from now? What would they teach their children about your culture? They know nothing. So definitely they can't teach nothing. That's where the problem lies. The thing about parenting is that you need to look, it has to be futuristic. If we're parenting, we're just looking at today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then that's a big error. You need to look into the future. What do these children know about Yoruba language, Igbo language, Hausa language, whatever language you're speaking? What do they know? What would they teach their children? For many of us, we've even changed their Igbo names to English names. God help us, by the time they get bigger, they can even remove the Azodo in their name and put Scott or put Anthony. So that's your name is lost, the language is lost, the food is lost. What are they going to give to their children? That's a bigger question. You might think you've gotten away with it, or your children are doing well, they are enjoying themselves, living large. What do they know about your tradition that they can teach the next generation? Because if we don't take it seriously, then the family legacy, the history, the lineage ends with our children. And that's unfair because it didn't end with you. Your parents handed something over to you, even if it wasn't in depth. They didn't leave you empty-handed. So for me, I prioritize cultural intelligence above everything. In my house, we eat local delicacies. My son, if you see him eating abacha here, he will eat, he will ask for more because I refuse to hide away culture from them. I deliberately make native food. I make swallow. I make gari semo. I make abacha. I make nkwobi. I make local delicate every week. It must feature. My children, they will say, oh, my son will say, oh, yuck. I say yuck in your stomach. It will still enter. Yuck or no yuck. It will still enter. Burger is not yuck, right? Burger is not, shawarma is not yuck, but a goosey soup is yuck, Abby. No. So that shows you what this child is going to teach his own children tomorrow is yuck. You see? So, but by enforcing it now, gradually, I remember when I started introducing abacha, my children were like, what is this? Oh, today, when I make a full pot, the way they will be downing it in the dining table. So, what am I saying in essence? As parents, we must keep culture alive. We must deliberately keep Nigeria alive in our homes. We must keep Nigeria alive in our homes, and it's a deliberate effort. In this season of Independence Day celebration, commit to telling your children stories, watch documentaries, be intentional about it. Last month in my city here, we had Igbo Day. On a normal day, you won't find me in that gathering. Like, what am I doing on a whole Saturday that I have things to do? But because I am prioritizing cultural intelligence at this stage in my life, I packed the whole family. We all went. My children saw masquerade for the first time. They saw dancers. My daughter was like, what are these people? I said, they are dancing. That's your traditional dance. And next year, you are going to be on that stage dancing. And I meant every word of it. I've already registered her. She's going to start practicing. Because Nigeria will not die in my generation. I refuse that. I'm going to keep Nigeria alive in all my actions, in raising my children, because I know that when they embrace it, they are able to transfer it to their own children. Now, I put together some ideas for making reading a family tradition. You could start up with a family reading hour. If you haven't been doing it, a family reading hour, which is when you set a specific time of day every week for the whole family to read together. Yeah. You can rotate reading aloud between parents and children and take turns. Just before I started my live stream right now, my daughter was right beside me and she was trying to read aloud because we've done it over and over again. So it has become more like a culture here. She picked up a book and she said to her brother, let them start reading it. And I said, no, 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 I'm going live in the next few minutes. You guys need to excuse me. Right. So you can start family reading, right? You can create a heritage bookshelf. A heritage bookshelf, which is a column of your bookshelf where you talk about Nigerian history. If you're watching this live stream and you're not Nigerian, you're catching a replay, apologies. This live stream is dedicated to Nigeria. You can see I'm even repping Nigeria. You see my green, my white petals behind. So today is all about Nigeria because I appreciate the giant that Nigeria is. Right. You can do heritage bookshelf. And talking about heritage bookshelf, it's my pleasure to announce to you that the Reader's Corner has stocked up a lot of African novels right now. Sorry, scratch that. A lot of Nigerian novels. Novels by Chinua Achebe, Chimamanda Adichie, Wole Soyinka. Many of them are available now. It's just there. I've not unboxed. I would have showed you guys some samples because we are dedicated. We're committed to immerse families with Nigerian culture, regardless of being in diaspora. My friend said, Vera, you're in Canada. This thing you're carrying in your head, snow is coming. I say, I don't care. Snow will wait over there. But Nigeria must live again. My Nigeria will live in my family. Nigeria will live in my space. Nigeria will not die in my own turn. I'm committed to give the legacy, pass it to my children so that they will have a story to tell their own children. And it continues on and on and on. And one charge I leave with you today, or one reminder, I always say this to my friends that whatever you trivialize in your generation, it goes off completely in the next generation. So if you can imagine, our forefathers were culturally intelligent like 90%. Our parents were not 90%. Our parents were probably 70%. We we were 50%. Look at our children, we're doing 10%. That tells you that in the next generation, it will be 0.0%. So even the one I'm doing, I know it's not even enough because the error has already been made. This is me just playing catch up, right? So have a bookshelf of African stories. We've also stocked up some storybooks from other Nigerian writers for children, bedtime stories. We're going big on Nigerian literature now. That's the big announcement for the Readers Corner. That's our focus for the last quarter of this year. African novels all the way, both for adults and for children. And then we have another idea to make reading fun and reading Nigerian stories is reading about Nigeria storytelling nights. You can encourage children and adults to tell folk tales. I mean, I don't even remember any family still does folk telling or does bedtime stories or tales by moonlight. All of those things just went away. And these are activities that engraved life's values and skills in our hearts as children. How come we let it slip by so fast in our own time? My friend will say, you are busy pursuing shifts, night shift, morning shift, day shift, walk. And the children are just glued on the screen watching Coco Melon. They don't have nothing to teach their children. And you think that 10 years is far from now, 20 years is not far, it's almost here, locking by the door, right? So another thing that you can do as a family is to create reading journals or reflections where family members can write short stories about what they learned or felt after reading. For me, I also incorporate drawing, creative writing inspired by the stories. So on October 1st, on September 30th, that day is a holiday here. We already have a plan. My children and I were going to sit down and watch documentaries about Nigeria, different documentaries, learn more about the Nigerian local government, the languages. Today, we were cooking lunch, and my daughter came. She said a word. I don't remember the word particularly now, but she said something in Igbo, and then she asked me that why does it mean? She said two words, and she said, why does this two word mean the same thing? And then I jumped on the opportunity to tell her about ethnic groups, and I told her about the 770 local governments. I don't know if they created more now in Nigeria. I told her about diversity, how people can be in the same community, but they have different languages. I think there are over 1,000 or 2,000 languages in Nigeria. I taught her that, and she was like, "How? And we're all Nigerians. Why are we speaking different?" And I said, "That's the beauty of creation. That is the power in God's creation. You see that now. So I'm happy that they are embracing it. I mean, one day I was passing by. They were watching. It was their screen time, and they were watching. And what did I see them watching? Igbo movie, Igbo story on YouTube. I was like, okay, how did we get here? From mommy, what's that? What did you say? My son will say, what does that mean? To sitting down for 1 hour watching Igbo story that there's no translation, just Igbo they are speaking. I asked my daughter, like, why are you watching it? Like, how are you flowing? She said she doesn't know, but she just likes the way they look, the way they do their hand, and the sound of the language is fascinating to her. And I'm like, that's the spirit. That's the spirit. So this is an encouragement. If you're a parent watching here, or you're not a parent, you have people who are parents, encourage them. Let Nigeria not die in their turn. Let Nigeria live in our homes. Right. Another idea to bring Nigeria's story together this season is cultural discussions. After reading, discuss themes like resilience, identity, courage, and morality. Now, if there is a skill or a lesson you've been trying to teach your child, let me give you a secret. Books, stories are a perfect way to do that. The thing that you've been saying as a parent, saying from morning till night, and they are not getting it, link it to a story or a book. I can assure you 100% that it will stick. Because children thrive in creativity. They are tired of hearing your voice. Sorry, mommy. Sorry, daddy. They are tired of hearing you scream from morning till night. Say the same thing. Remove this cup. Don't lie. Don't steal. Give them a story. I'll tell you a short story. So recently I started, my son, there's this book that has about 20 stories in it that I got, and I started reading for him every night. I try. It's so hard, right? I'm not saying it's easy, but I try my best to make it happen, even if it's just one page I read. And every time we read, I see how attentive he is. He's so calm. He just listens. And the next morning, recently, he was talking with his sister, and he said, and then I see what happened last night. We read about the story. The way he narrated the story, his lessons. I'm like, okay. In fact, I told a story about how God, how what prayer is. Prayer is about communicating with God. And I told him that I noticed that many times when we pray and we finish in Jesus' name, we don't run out. And I now taught him, and not that I taught him, but it was in that book that we were reading. And I taught him that when you pray, you should leave some minutes after you're in Jesus' name. Don't rush out, wait a little bit more for God to talk to you back, because prayer is a conversation. It's not just talking to God, it's talking with God. So that's what we talked about the night before. In fact, he was already dozing off when we talked about that thing. The first thing the next morning, what did I see? My son had run to the sister. The way he even explained the whole thing to the sister, I was so shocked. I was like, really? That's the importance of storytelling. So that skill, that message you've been trying to pass to your children, I charge you today, infuse a story into it. Read it from a book. Don't say it from your head. Read it from a book. Let them see that somebody else has written this thing and is telling and is saying it to them. And you be rest assured that that message will be driven right home the way you want it. Another idea that I have here is interactive activities, which is role playing characters or enacting scenes from books, creating artwork or crafts inspired by stories. So I remember sometime last year, my children's school, they had this cultural day. And then for Igbos, I told my children, okay, how can we contribute? What can we do? And then my daughter came up with the idea that we should make Nigerian flags. Yeah, instead of buying them from Amazon, we went to the store, we bought the A4 paper, the plain ones, bought straws, and bought color green. That was all. My children and I, we saw that we made over 50 Nigerian flags. And what did we do? We just made it without coloring the green part. We just made them put the glue and did the straw, and we took it for the event. What did we do with it? As people came to our store, our booths, to come and see, oh, what's Nigeria about? We just handed them over the flag and we said, please color green and green on the other end. As simple as that. it was simple, but it drove the message home. And a lot of children came to our table that day. They were fascinated. They were like, "Oh, we need to paint green." And they were like, "What is that?" I would say, "Oh, that's Nigerian flag, green, white, green." So introduce interactive activities, artwork, craft, inspired by stories. And as the people came around to visit our stand, we took the opportunity to explain Nigerian culture. We also went with some Nigerian food, delicacies, and we were showcasing. It was such a beautiful moment. I really captured the moment. I'm like, this is what life should be about. No matter where we are in the world, we must rep our roots. We must rep our roots. Right. Good. So this the comment section is so dry. I can only see the admin chatting. So let me hear from you. What are you going to try this season with your family? What are you going to try? What different thing approach are you going to take towards making sure that Nigeria lives in your home? No matter where you are in the world, don't let Nigeria die in your time. Don't let Nigeria die in your time. Leave something for your children to teach their children, to teach their children's children. That's the only way to make Nigeria live. So let me see. I don't know if it's from the setup of the live stream, but I don't see my comments coming. Let me see what you're gonna do differently. What would you do differently this season as to celebrate Nigeria's independence? What will you do differently? Remember, the topic we talked about today is books that shaped our nation. We already went through them, the names. I think it's already in the chat. And then we talked about celebrating Nigeria's independence through stories. We talked about being intentional about passing down legacy to our children. Legacy is not just asset, it's not money. Legacy is the life that you live every day that your children are seeing, the values that you transfer to them, the stories that you tell them, the cultural heritage that you live with them. This green I'm wearing, I brought out a selection of greens that I have, and I asked my daughter to choose, and she chose this one, right? Because I tried to involve them, and I told them that on that September 30th, which is a public holiday here. October 2nd is not a public holiday, so we're all going to be going to school and working, but we're going to celebrate our own on September 10th. I told her all of us are going to wear green. We're going to wear green and white. We're going to take pictures. We're just going to relish the moment. Being far from home actually reminds us where we come from. Right. So I don't still see my comments coming. Okay. And rounding up now. Rounding up. In my notes, I said, by making reading a shared experience, families can pass on culture, values, and a love for literature to the next generation. Now, if you're a parent watching and you have teenage children or older children, I beg you in the name of God, get them these books. Chimamanda's books, Things Fall Apart, Achebe's books. Let them soak in Nigerian history. Another way to inculcate the Nigerian culture, or like to imbibe that Nigerian culture in families, is by, how do I say it now? Exploring, going to the museums, going to arts galleries, just clearly participating in anything that has to do with promoting the Nigerian culture, Nigerian heritage. Look at your diets, look at your bookshelves, look at your conversations. Be more intentional about Nigeria. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how things are. Even if you're back home and you feel like, oh, this country is such a mess, you want to run away like us. Ask very well before you run, okay? Right? But as long as you're there, my key message today is let Nigeria live in your home. Give something to your children to pass on to their children. Right. So today, we've talked about the stories that built Nigeria. We also explored how families can carry these stories forward. The thing is, Every story shared, every proverb, or every book is a seed planted for curious, informed, and proud young readers. And the thing is, the seed you sow in your children today, that seed of cultural heritage that you sow in your children today, will last a lifetime. It will last forever in their hearts. That's the beauty. It will last in the sense that the values, the lessons, the morals that you're trying to transfer to these children, if you do it through stories, it becomes more effective than anything else. So, my charge today: get the Nigerian writers books, fill your house with it, get on it. My daughter was suggesting, was like, let's do a challenge. I said, no, I don't want to do challenges now. What is she trying to say? She's so excited about Nigeria, like she wants to get into a reading challenge about reading about Nigeria, making presentations about Nigeria. I really feel like we should do something like that, so let children come together, say what they know about Nigeria. As I round up, I'm going to tell a short story. So part of our vacation last year, I traveled to some cities, and that city, they were having their Igbo traditional day, just like we had ours, and it was Igbo cultural day, and the people who gathered, a lot of people were there, and the compare of the event, at some point he said, okay, he wanted 10 children to come out, and he told the 10 children stepped on stage, and he started speaking Igbo to them, asking them questions. To my amazement, these children could answer the questions. Right? If I one particular child, if you see her very pretty, looking white, she looks like she was even born in Canada and all those things. But she could tell numbers, she could read numbers, she could read alphabets in her language, she could communicate clearly in Igbo. And that was a turning point for me. And I said, oh, so some parents are still taking this seriously. So if you're not, I want to assure you that you are almost the only person that is not prioritizing your cultural heritage. Introduce your food, introduce your songs. My children now, their favorite song is one EJ Oma the Traveler. Is on YouTube. Every day my son says, Mommy, can we watch EJ the Traveler? It started from somewhere. So no matter where you are, the good place to start is by even giving them the Igbo books, right? The Igbo traditional books, the Yoruba books, language books, alphabet books. Free resources are on YouTube. A lot of free resources. Expose your children to Nigeria. Don't let Nigeria die in your family, in your time. Let Nigeria live again. As we celebrate Nigeria's 65th birthday, it is my pleasure to celebrate with Nigeria, even though I'm far from home. But I wish Nigeria all the best. I wish Nigeria and Nigerians the resilience that they've always had. I wish them the patience that they've always had. I am not saying things will be better. I don't know that one. But all I'm saying is we've always been a strong nation. We've always been a strong people. So my charge is continue in that might. Show the strength that we are known for. Show the courage that we are known for. Speak up when you need to. Write it in books, sing it in songs, show it in actions, and of course, stay safe while doing that because it can be done for it if you're not careful. So that is all we have for today. And then the big announcement, we're going to make it public. We're going to showcase the books that just arrived about Nigerian prominent and prolific Nigerian writers. We have Chinua Achebe, we have Chimamanda Adichie, I think we have Flora Wapa. Yeah, we have those books at the Reader's Corner. Why? Because we want to celebrate Nigeria in grand style now. So this is me saying thank you so much for joining us. If you're just joining us midway, We talked about Nigeria's Independence Day. We talked about the history of the Independence Day. We talked about books that shaped our nation. And we talked about leveraging the power of storytelling, you know, to transfer this legacy of cultural heritage. And I remain your host on this YouTube live stream every Sunday, last Sunday of the month, 4 p.m. I remain Vera Patrick Azodo. I want to say thank you for joining us today. Thank you for catching a replay when you will catch a replay. And I wish you a beautiful Independence Day celebration. Remember to keep Nigeria alive in your home. Remember to keep Nigeria alive in your home. And this me saying goodbye. See you next month. Bye.